How are we doing? Welcome back to another episode of Steele Talkin Sports. I am your host, Jay Steele, and let's get talking. Welcome back. It is Monday, May 27th. We are here for episode 12 of Steele Talkin Sports. Thank you for joining me. I think this is live on YouTube. I'm not quite sure. So let's just hope that I'm doing this right, and we'll continue on with the episode. If it's not, then I'll make sure to get it posted in just a little bit. Currently, it's around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we've got a couple of hours before some NBA and NHL playoff action get going. But let's recap what we've had over the last couple of days and weeks. Real quick, I do want to pull up the picks from last week and just discuss that. So on the 20th, last Monday, we had Game 1 of the East Finals with the Pacers and the Celtics. This was a nail-biter. We can see, if I can get to the right day on the schedule. This was Boston 133 to 128. Boston was favored minus 10.5 in this game. Boston held a 3-point lead after the first quarter. Pacers tied it at halftime, and it was a 1 point. It was wow. It was so evenly matched. Boston up by 1 after 3, and then the Pacers tied it to go to overtime. This was a nail biter. I know. If you listen to me, we took the Pacers plus 10.5. We got the W, but I was on the Pacers money line, and that game was so brutal. They had a 3-point lead with 10 or 15 seconds to go, and Tyrese Halliburton decided to dribble the ball out of bounds off of his leg. Costly turnover, of course. Boston capitalized. Jaylen Brown went down and hit a 3 in the corner with smothering coverage from Pascal Siakam. And then in overtime, Boston, got the W by 5. But we did win that bet on Pacers plus 10.5. So that was a successful start to our episode last week. And then on the 22nd, we had Game 1 of the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. I believe in that game, let's see, I think Minnesota was minus 4.5. Let me just double check. Yes, it was Minnesota minus 4.5. I know I told you not to mess with the plus 4.5 for Dallas and just take the Dallas money line. So we did get that right at a money line plus 150 W. And then also, I don't know if I gave these out exactly right. I need to listen to that episode again. But I know I wanted the Oilers to advance against the Canucks. So even though that was a heavy money line in Game 7 of the West semifinals in the NHL, the Oilers did advance, and the Panthers did win Game 1 in the East against the Rangers, but they have since lost 2 games in a row. So that is just a quick recap of last week. We will move on to this week's games that we've got. So today on Monday, May 27th, we have Boston playing Indiana in Game 4. Boston is favored minus 7.5 points. It looks like Tyrese Halliburton is going to be ruled out of this game. It says questionable, but that has not been updated by RotoWire since yesterday. So we will have to wait and see on that. Even if Halliburton is in the game, I don't see him being that effective on the court. Something that I heard was that it was a coaching staff decision that kept him out of the game. in Game 3. It was not a decision of his own accord. If he had a say in the matter, I think he would have been on the court. So that tells me that I think the coaching staff and the training staff for the Pacers is protecting him at all costs. So I think that's just going to be a crucial piece of this game that if he's not in there, I don't see how Indiana can sustain the onslaught of Boston. But they have covered the spread in 2 of the 3 games. If you look at, obviously Game 1 was plus 10.5. They lost by 5, so they covered that. Game 2 was Boston minus 9, and Indiana lost 126 to 110. And then in Game 3, Boston was favored minus 7 on the road, and Indiana only lost by 3 again, and that was without Halliburton. So that was because of a nuclear game from Andrew Nembhard mostly, but it seems to me that the Pacers can kind of operate without their star player because they're just a system type of team. They don't need the star player to be on the court to necessarily have the team function the way that they're supposed to. Now, can that be sustained again? I don't really know. Andrew Nembhard had a career game with 32 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 12 of 21 from the field. But is that sustainable? TJ McConnell also put up 23 points, but you've got 4 guys that score 22, 22, 32, and 23. And then your other 4 players that scored only have 4, 4, 2, and 2. So it's possible that Indiana could cover the spread again, cover that 7.5 and lose. It is also possible that Boston could be kind of asleep and trying to walk through this game thinking that they've got it wrapped up at 3-0. And they could slip up and lose one, and maybe lose one on purpose, not on purpose, but not put as much effort into it, maybe play guys a few less minutes and try to go win it on their home court in 5 games. Maybe that's something that Boston wants to do, win in front of their home crowd. I don't know. I don't think that matters to guys in the NBA, but I know most teams would prefer more rest than less rest. So I would expect Boston to put up a good showing in this game. When I was looking over the numbers, currently on DraftKings right now, 50% or 57% of the money line bets have been placed on Boston in this game. And conversely, 43% of the money line bets have been placed on Indiana. That number for Boston to win on the money line is minus 275, and Indiana is plus 220. So you have to put up some big money to win it back with Boston, but by the way the series is going, obviously it shows that Boston's probably going to win the game. But let's talk about some numbers to kind of back it up. Also, 85% of the bets that have been placed on DraftKings are on the over 222.5. These 2 teams do not play defense. The over has hit 3 games in a row in this series by a wide margin. In Game 1, the total was 223. There was 251 points scored. In Game 2, 224.5. There was 236 points scored. And then in Game 3, 220.5, and there was 225 scored. So all 3 games have hit the over, even with Game 3 not having Tyrese Halliburton. If you want to just play the over at 222.5, that is probably a really safe bet. But this could be one of those situations where when 85% of the people that have placed a bet on the over, this could be one of those games where it's 100 to 102, and you don't even get close to that 222 number. So be weary about playing the over under, but with these two teams not really playing a ton of lockdown defense, it's easy to see that points can be scored no problem. So I would be interested in that. Some other things that I was pulling up as far as stats. Derek White, his points total is set at 15.5 tonight. I wanted to note that 6 of his last 11 games against Indiana, he has gone over 15.5 points. In game 1, he had 15 points, 6 boards, 9 assists, 1 block, 2 steals, and 3 3-pointers made. Game 2, 23 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 block, 4 threes made. And then in game 3, he had 13 points, 5 boards, 9 assists, or 7 assists, and 4 blocks with only 2 3-pointers made. So in 2 of the 3 games in the series is the games that he hasn't hit the under, or the over, I'm sorry. But if you take out those 2, he would have been 5 for his last 9, hitting the over 15.5 against Indiana. So I would look for Derek White to have a good game tonight. Also, Jason Tatum has gone over his point total of 29.5 in 9 of his last 10 against Indiana. That's pretty impressive. And on the other side of the court, Miles Turner has gone under 17.5 points in 6 of his last 10 games against Boston. So those are some guys that you may want to key in on if you're in the player prop market for this game. The Jason Tatum double-double is pretty much a lock. Doesn't really matter if he gets there with points and rebounds or points and assists or, hell, even just rebounds and assists, because he didn't shoot the ball that great in Game 3. Jaylen Brown to make the first basket of the game. He takes the first shot a lot of times. So that would be a very, very good. I think just I can't remember if I filtered this for this season. It has to be because it's 19. But Jaylen Brown made the first basket of the game for Boston 19 times. That's a lot. I think I'm getting that right. I hope I read that stat right. Jaylen Brown's points is set at 25.5. He has gone over that number in 7 of his last games against Indiana. He also had a 40-point night the other night. So if he puts up another pretty impressive performance, he could be the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So, just depends on how he and Tatum split the numbers and the minutes or the shots. But I would be looking at Jaylen Brown over 25.5 points tonight. As far as the game goes, I've liked Indiana in every game. I've gotten the spreads right in games 1 and 3 by taking Indiana plus the points. But I've also sprinkled the money line in both of those games, and Indiana lost by 3 in both games. So they've been in the mix. Do I think they can do it again in Game 4? I don't know. It's tough. I don't really care whether Halliburton plays or not. I kind of liked watching the team play without him. They still run up and down the court. They just need to play a bit more defense. There's moments where they're just foul happy. And, I would rather see a team not foul a guy on the way to the basket and just let him take a layup rather than waste all of these fouls trying to slap the ball away. And now you're having to put in your 9th, 10th, 11th guy off the bench because you're in foul trouble. I don't like that, so I'd rather see Indiana try to play a bit more straight-up defense, get your hands up in the air, and guard somebody. But with that being said, I think Boston closes it out. I would play the Boston -7.5. And if you could probably just pair that with the over as well. I would maybe want to get down to like 220. So take like 219.5. Take the over in Boston -7.5. I think that would be a really good play. Let's load that up on the old DK, and we'll see what those odds are for us tonight. NBA. And the current spread is -7, so I'm going to go to alternate spread and just get that half point because if it ends as a 7-point win, you do not want to have a push. So Boston -6.5 at -125 odds. And the alternate total of over 219.5 is -150. When we combo those two together, that's going to be a +180 ticket. $20 would win you 56. 100 would win you 280. So that is how I'm going to be playing this game. Let me just write that down. Okay. Boom. We got that locked in. Boston -6.5. They get the W. And over 219.5. That is what we were going with. All right, let's move on to tomorrow's game. Holy crap, is Luka Doncic the real freaking deal? Luka has been on, I don't know what you want to call it, putting Anthony Edwards to shame, putting Rudy Gobert to shame. That game 2 dagger at the end of the game was like the sickest play I've maybe ever seen in live basketball. Like I've seen highlights, of course, of all plays of all kinds and winners and step backs and all that jazz. But watching a game live and seeing the play call or the Jason Kidd timeout with 13 seconds left, and then the ball comes up the court. There's an immediate screen from Derek Lively, and you see the switch happen on defense, and Rudy Gobert takes Luka Doncic. And as soon as that moment happened, the whole world knew what was going to happen. I mean, for 9 seconds, all we watched was Luka dribble the ball, Luka size him up. He's watching his hips, trying to see when he's leaning one way too much or the other, when he's off balance. And as soon as he had him, he cooked him. And he hit the Luka step back, perfect little tippy toe shot. And that was one of the most beautiful plays in basketball I've ever seen. I don't care if it was a 13-second isolation and one guy had the ball. That was beautiful. I'm so impressed watching this Dallas Mavericks team that I can't. This is like they took over after the Knicks loss. Like they took over as my new favorite team. You see me wearing Dallas shirts like all the time, Dallas hats, obviously. I'm a Dallas fan. I might like fully ditch the Charlotte Hornets and be a full-time Dallas Mavericks fan. I don't care. This team is that electric. I really hated to see in Game 3 the unfortunate knee or neck or head or neck injury to Derek Lively. He was playing so well in this series and in that game. I had him going for a double-double, and he was well on his way. He had 6 points and 4 boards only in the first half. Like he was well on his way to getting there. Unfortunate, incidental contact of a knee to the back of the head when he like kind of fell on a rebound and Towns was going in. But earlier in the game, Towns went up for a layup and he got Derek Lively in the groin with a knee. Definitely looked like he caught him in the nuts and berries, and I'm sure that hurt. It should have been an offensive foul, maybe a flagrant, because it's just you can't hit my man in his man parts. Like, come on, dog. Like, you can't do that. So they said it was a natural movement of Towns going to the basket, but when you watch it in replay, dude, it's clear as day. He led with the knee. He intended to kind of clear the defender out with his knee and protect himself from getting the ball blocked. And that's what he did, but he injured my man. So I think if a foul would have been called in that first instance, maybe the knee to the head doesn't happen later because the sequence of plays might have changed. But either way, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively are the difference in this series, I think, for the Mavericks. Like, Luka and Kyrie have been great. Derek Jones Jr. is showing up when he needs to. PJ Washington had a great game 3. But Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford are way better down low than Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. I don't care that Rudy's the 6th man of the year or the defensive player of the year. He looks like trash. Naz Reid is the 6th man of the year, but he doesn't guard anybody down low, even though he's like 6'9", 6'10". He is a 3-point shooter, and he had one good game, and that's about it. And even in that game, they lost. He made 6 threes. He had a chance after Luka made that crazy step back to win the game, and he didn't. So I just don't think that Minnesota has recovered from the Denver series. I think they're still exhausted. I think they're still like trying to recover from all that energy they spent, because it looks like for 4 or 5 minutes they've got it all together. And then the next 4 or 5 minutes, it's like, what the hell is this team doing? So I just think they're gassed, they're mentally fatigued, and they're down 3-0. I just don't see a way that they come back in this series. Dallas is at home for game 4. Their crowd is going to be even more hyped than they were in game 3. I mean, when the game started, there were like still smoke in the arena from like fireworks that they set off for some damn reason. And these boys were making buckets. They didn't care that they could barely see the basket. I noticed that on television. I don't know if you guys did, but I definitely saw that there looked like there was like fireworks smoke in the air inside the arena. So I thought that was weird. But let's get into some of the numbers for this game. 51% of the bets have been placed on the Mavs money line. 59% of the bets on the spread have been placed on Dallas -2.5. And then this is insane. 94%. Yes, 94% of the bets on the over-under have been placed on the over. That is insane. I've never seen a split that high on DraftKings. I mean, I've only been using DK for 2.5 months now, since early March, but I've never seen a betting split that high. Now, all 3 games have gone over. Game 1, the total – actually, all 3 games have been 207, 207, and 207.5. Game 1, 213 points. Game 2, 217, and Game 3, 223. So they've had no problem getting to the over. It just seems comically like it seems hilarious that 94% of the bets are on the over right now, even though the total has increased 3 points compared to the past 3 games. So maybe Vegas is finally onto something. But I would say that I kind of like the under, because my thinking is that this is going to be a shutdown game for Dallas. They're just going to lock down on defense and prevent Anthony Edwards from driving to the basket and put the ball in Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns' hands, because that is the key to winning the game. Karl Anthony Towns has gone under his point total. His average is usually his over-under is like 19.5 or 20.5. Obviously, if he's had a couple of good scoring games where he gets to that number or right at it, Vegas bumps it up to 20.5 or even 21.5. But in the playoffs specifically, he's gone under 20.5 3 out of the 4 games against Phoenix, 4 out of the 7 games against Denver, and all 3 games in this series against Dallas. His threes mark toward the end of the regular season was hovering at 2.5 most days. It's now down to 1.5. And he went 0 for 8 from 3 in game 3. Ace, stop. Lay down. So I would be looking at Karl Anthony Towns under his point total of 19.5 points. I just don't think the matchups are good. One, he's slow, and he's coming off of, what was it, like a minor knee surgery or a cleaning earlier in this season. So, like, he hasn't played a full season, and his knee isn't fully healthy. But also the matchups are bad. If Gafford or Lively are on the court and they're guarding him, they have more size than he does. And when he gets down low, he can't get the ball to the rim over those guys. He's better. His best chance to get these points is going to be a rebound tip-in or a 3. But like I said, he's been struggling from the 3-point line. Like I said, he went 0 for 8 in game 3. He was 1 for 5 in game 2 from 3, where he totaled 15 points, 4 of 16 from the field overall. I don't see Karl Anthony Towns getting it together. He seems just out of whack. In game 1, he was 2 for 9 from 3 and 6 of 20 overall from the field. He's shooting 27% in this series after shooting 50% from the field in the Denver series and 53% from the field against Phoenix. So, yeah, it's clear that the matchups against him are just crushing him. The only thing that I think you could look to play Cat for is his over rebounds. Currently, it's sitting at 7.5. In the 3 games in this series, he's had 7, 7, and 11. So he's been right there at the number. He did get over that number in 4 of the 7 games against Denver. But fade Karl Anthony Towns. Other notable things that I found for this series, Dallas this year, when as a favorite, they are 45-16. Minnesota as the underdog is only 14-13. And that would include last night's game where they were the underdog. So before that game, they were only 14-12. They're mediocre when they're the underdog. Luka, over his point total of 30.5 points in 4 of the last 5 games. He's over his rebounds of 8.5 in 6 of the last 10. And he's over 8.5 rebounds in 23 of his last 30 games. So hop on Luka over 8.5 rebounds. I think that's a really solid bet for game 4. Also, he's made 5 3-pointers in 4 of his last 8. In game 3, he also had 5 steals, and he's had over 1.5 steals in 4 of the last 8 games. So those are some other player props that you could look at. Luka over 3.5 threes. That's probably what his 3-point number will be. I see him shooting more threes to try to keep any contusions with other players, like in the paint, away from his knee and ankle. So look for him to shoot probably 6, 8, maybe 10 threes again in Game 4. So I like that bet. And then the steals, he's incredible at finding the ball or like hiding in a passing lane, and people don't notice a 6'7" Luka Doncic standing there. Like, he is that tall. You understand that, right? Like, he's a 6'7" point guard. But he's sneaky. I love his game. So maybe, like, just throw a Luka parlay, like over 30.5 points, over 8.5 rebounds, over 3.5 threes, and over 1.5 steals. That'll probably be like 10 or 12 to 1. Yeah, I mean, it would be fun to watch that game and throw in Dallas to win. You could get probably like 25 to 1 on that combo. But when it comes down to the game, yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with what everything I just said right there. I think Dallas is going to close this series out. I think they realized last night that even though they already knew this, but they are the far superior team to Minnesota. Luka said it best when he talked shit to Rudy Gobert in Game 2 after he made that step back. He said, "You can't fucking guard me." And there's literally nobody on the team that can guard him. Anthony Edwards could, but if he guarded Luka, there'd be so many more fouls called, and this game would take 4 hours to play. In addition to that, he would be so gassed that he wouldn't be able to make a bucket on the other end of the court. So, yeah, I'm going to be backing the Dallas Mavericks at the -2.5 number. And that is -110 odds right now. And I want to play. Sorry. I want to play the over just because, like I said last week, I love watching points being scored, so I'm always gonna favor the over. Yeah. Let's go over. I'm gonna buy down a half point just to 209.5. Won't be that big of a deal. But yeah, let's go Dallas -2.5. And where is that? I hate that DK took away the slider, and now they've got just a drop down of the box. Like, bring DraftKings. If you listen to me, bring back the slider function you had for the spread and the total. I don't know why I don't have that anymore. I hate the drop down box. It's not as cool. I like being able to see the slider because it constantly adjusted your odds so you could see what you're currently getting every time you move a number. Come on, bring that back for me. Bring it back. But that, the 209.5 is -120 odds. So if you combo those two together, that is a +250. Obviously, 100 would bring you $350 back. So that is what I am going to be playing this week. And yeah, that's what I got. All right, 35 minutes in. That wraps up NBA talk. I'm going to be a little bit quicker with the NHL talk because it's a whole lot harder to do NHL research. Let me tell you. It's just NHL is so tough. It's so competitive. I mean, the puck can bounce one way or the other, and you could have a total change in the game when the team that you bet on was like leading most of the game or had control of the game. So we'll see how this goes. But for tonight's game, we've got Game 3 of the Stars and Oilers in the West. Let's see. The Oilers won game 1. That was the overtime win by McDavid, yeah? Yeah, that was the double overtime win by McDavid. And then in game 2, the Stars rallied 3-1. So we are back in Edmonton tonight at 8:30 on TNT. I know the Stars have been the best team, and on paper, well, not really on paper because Edmonton's got the superstars, but I like Edmonton at home. The Canada faithful are going to be ramped up for this West Finals in Edmonton. So I look for Edmonton to take this game. The current line is Edmonton minus 130. That's actually not that bad on the money line for Edmonton. If you wanted to play the puck line at minus 1.5, that is plus 185. That is some juicy odds. But I will say, like, Edmonton has been playing, I feel like, more close games, and they win by 1 as compared to, covering the 1.5 goal spread. But some things that I did find, Evan Bouchard for the Oilers, he's a defenseman. He has had over 2.5 goals in 7 of his last 10 games, which bodes well not only for him on the shots on goal market, because you could play that. You could also assume that if he's getting that many shots on goal, he has a chance at a goal score, obviously, but an assist as well. So if you want to play Evan Bouchard to get an assist or just a point in general, I think that would be a good play for Game 3. And he did have a goal in 4 of the 7 games against Vancouver. So that is a positive sign that we're looking for. And Evan Bouchard to score a goal tonight is plus 320. So if you put 100 down on Bouchard to score a goal, that is plus 420 coming back. That is a nice payout just for one guy to score a goal. I do like what Evan Bouchard has been doing for the Oilers. Here is like what's going to give in this game. In their last 15 games on the road, Dallas is 13-2. 13-2 in their last 15 on the road. However, Edmonton in their last 20 at home is 15-5. What gives here? The home team with the 15-5 record or the road team with the 13-2 record? I don't know. This is tough. I mean, one team that plays really good on the road when they go in somebody else's barn, and one team that just pretty much dominates everyone else at home. Edmonton was 28-9-4 for the year at home, while Dallas was 26-10-5 on the road. So both teams are good no matter what. What gives? I don't know. I think Edmonton pulls this out. The over in the Vancouver series for Edmonton, over 5.5 goals, because that's what the over-under is tonight. 2 of the 3 games at home for the Oilers in the last series went over, so that's a positive sign. And over 5.5 in all 3 of the home games against the Kings. So I would be playing the over 5.5 goals at minus 115 tonight. If you want to pair that with the Oilers money line or the Oilers minus 1.5, I think that's a good play. But I do think that the Oilers get a win here and take a 2-1 series lead in this series. And then finally, for tomorrow night, we have Game 4 of the Panthers and Rangers in the East. These games have been insane. I think every game has been kind of a nail-biter, or just you sit on the edge of your chair watching it because it's so intense. Panthers won Game 1 3-0. And then the Rangers have rallied to win 2 in a row, 2-1 with a final in overtime, and then 5-4 in overtime yesterday in Game 3. Game 3 was wild. to say the least. Let's see here. There were 4 goals scored in the first period, with 3 goals in the first 7 minutes of the game. Then 2 more goals in the second by the Rangers. 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of the game for the in the first part of the third period for the Panthers. And then you got a tip-in goal by the Rangers in overtime to get the W. What's crazy about this game is that in the first period, Sam Reinhart scored 2 goals on a power play, 2 separate power plays. That was I don't want to say it was the first time, but it felt like it was the first time that, at least for the Panthers, that any player had ever scored 2 power play goals in the same period in a playoff game. That was really cool. But then Alexis Lafreniere scored a goal, Barclay Goodrow scored a goal, and then both of them scored another goal in the second period. So by the end of the second period, we had 6 goals, all scored by 3 guys. So it was 2 goals by Reinhart, 2 goals by Goodrow, 2 goals by Lafreniere. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That was wild. Just a weird stat that I noticed, or kind of box score that I noticed. However, for tomorrow's game, Florida is favored -170 on the money line. The over is set at 5.5 goals. New York Rangers plus 1.5 goals -200, and Florida -1.5 goals plus 165. Jimmy Vesey for the Rangers has been ruled out. Other than that, looks like everything's good to go. In this game, I just hate the Rangers, so I've just got to take the Panthers. I can't do anything else except take the Panthers. 2 of these games have gone under 5.5, and then obviously yesterday's game had 9 goals. That's way over. Usually in these playoff series, you see more goals scored in the early games, and then defense really clamps down in the late games. The deeper you get into the series, game 4, 5, 6, they usually have a lot less goals than 1, 2, and 3. But in this game, I am going to take the over. Because I just want the Panthers to obliterate Rangers. So we're going to take Panthers money line at -170 and over 5.5. All right. I think that covers everything for today. I know it stinks. We've only got 2 basketball games and 2 hockey games, but that's what it is. That's what the sports world provides us. I have not been talking Major League Baseball. 1, because my Braves are kind of win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. Also, we can't seem to get off the injury bug, so we have another player down. Last year's MVP, Ronald Acuna, down for the year with a torn left ACL. 2 years ago, he tore his right ACL. Then he wins the MVP. Now he's out again. This guy just can't catch a break. It's painful. But, yeah, that's probably why I'm not talking baseball a lot, or don't really want to. 1, there's games every day. I don't record episodes every day, so it's hard for me to cover baseball like that. I watch other podcasts for that, so that's where I stand on that scenario. I do want to mention that we hit 2 of our 3 PGA championship tickets. I know I forgot to talk about that. Sorry. But if you listen to the PGA championship episode that I put out, episode 10, I gave out Colin Morikawa to make the top 10. That was a cash. I gave out Justin Thomas top 10. That was a cash. I did mention Max Homa top 10. He did not make it. But 2 of the 3 like locks that I put out for the top 10 cashed at the PGA Championship, so that was pretty fun. Obviously, the whole issue that happened to Scottie Scheffler was just ridiculous. But the memes and content that have come out since that whole thing happened has been quite hilarious. Free Scottie, Scottie's innocent. But yeah, I did want to mention that we did hit 2 of the 3 PGA Championship tickets. All right, everybody. I think that wraps it up. I'll be back next week on Monday. So stay tuned. Again, follow me on YouTube at Steele Talkin Sports. Follow me on Twitter at Steele_Talkin. Please remember to bet responsibly. Don't bet outside your budget. If you lose what you allotted for the week, just enjoy the games and wait till next week. Until next Monday, I'm Jay Steele. This is Steele Talkin Sports, and I'll see you later.